I know so many people right now who are extra busy, so I thought it might be helpful if I showed you 5 new dinners that you can make in only about 20 minutes or less. These meals are so good today, so I hope you enjoy it, and let's go get started. To kick us off today, we are making this cheesy Boursin pasta, and it's viral all over the internet right now, so I wanted to give it a try. This is kind of like my take on it. To my large casserole dish, I'm adding in 2 5-ounce packages of Boursin cheese. This is the garlic and fine herb flavor. Now I'm adding in 2 10-ounce packages of cherry tomatoes, then add in a tablespoon of minced garlic, followed by 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Now for the seasonings, add in about 2 teaspoons of salt, a half a teaspoon of pepper, and 1 teaspoon of oregano. Give this a stir to coat the tomatoes in the oil and the seasonings. This will bake in a preheated oven to 425 degrees for about 18 minutes. While we have that in the oven baking away, we're going to start on our pasta. So to this pot of boiling water, I added in a pound of ziti pasta, or you could use any type of pasta you like. Cook it according to the box instructions, but now that my pasta is cooked through, I'm removing about a half to a cup of the water that the pasta is cooking in. You'll see why I did that here in a moment, but now just strain that pasta and set it to the side. Now that our Boursin cheese and the tomatoes are out of the oven, we are just going to burst the tomatoes with the back of my spoon, and we're going to stir that cheese in. To thin out this sauce just a little bit and make it become more of a real pasta sauce consistency, add in that reserved pasta water a little bit at a time until it gets to your desired consistency. But now this is optional, but I am adding in a 10-ounce bag of steamed broccoli florets. Just stir that in. And then the last thing I'm doing is adding in our cooked pasta. Give it a really good stir, and then you could serve this up. I could see why this has been viral all over the internet for a while now. It really is super duper good. And this is also a meatless meal. The coolest part about this recipe is you could add different vegetables if you'd like, or you could add cooked bacon or cooked sausage to make it to your liking. This tortellini with a ground beef sauce has also been pretty popular recently, so to get it started, to the pan on my stove I added a pound of ground beef. I'm breaking that ground beef up and I'm going to cook it through. If you have a bunch of excess grease in your pan after you cook it through, just remove the grease. Then add in 24 ounces of marinara sauce. Give this a stir and scrape all those flavorful bits off the bottom of your pan. Now we're going to add in about 6 ounces of cream cheese. I did cube my cream cheese just so it does melt down better in the end. After that, go ahead and add in your seasonings, about a teaspoon of Italian seasoning, half a teaspoon of salt, and a little dash of pepper. The last thing I did was sprinkle a half a cup of mozzarella cheese on the top. I'm going to let that melt. While it's melting away, I added about 19 ounces of cheese tortellini to this pot of boiling water, and I cooked it according to the bag instructions. Back over to our pan with the ground beef in it. I am going to give this a stir and just watch how the cheese melts. Now that our cream cheese and the mozzarella is beautifully melty, I added in our strained tortellini. I gave this a stir and then I served it up. Here's my plate of food. This is really extremely good. You need to give this recipe a try. My little toddler had bowls and bowls of this, and if you're not the biggest tortellini fan in the world, you could substitute the tortellini for normal pasta, and I served this with a side salad with ranch, tomatoes, and croutons. Now we're making this ham, broccoli, and rice casserole. I have about a pound of ham steak right here. If you're on a budget or trying to save a little bit of money, I do suggest you cooking with ham. It's pretty affordable. I cut it into smaller bite-sized pieces. Now over to the pan on my stove, I added in a tablespoon of olive oil. Now I'm adding in a yellow onion that I diced. Cook that onion until it starts to get soft, only a couple of minutes. Now add in a tablespoon of minced garlic and let that garlic become fragrant. It only takes about 15 seconds. Toss in the ham that we cut up earlier. Then you're going to add in about 3/4 cup of jasmine rice. My rice is uncooked. If you only have white rice on hand, you could of course use white rice as a substitute. Add in a cup and a half of chicken broth now, and for the seasonings, a teaspoon of paprika, half a teaspoon of onion and garlic powder, dash of pepper, 1 teaspoon of oregano, and a dash of salt. All these seasonings will give this plenty of flavor. Now add in a 12-ounce bag of frozen broccoli, give this a stir, and let this simmer covered for about 15 to 18 minutes. You do want to stir it occasionally while it's simmering so it doesn't stick to the bottom of your pan. Once your rice is tender, all you have to do now is stir in about 3/4 cup of shredded cheddar cheese. If you're not a cheese fan or you can't have cheese, you could of course leave the cheese out and this recipe will still be amazing. Once the cheese is nice and melty, it's time to serve it up. This is one of my favorite meals to make on a busy night when I don't really know what I'm going to cook for dinner, just because it comes together in no time at all. It's a total crowd pleaser and this meal is pretty budget friendly, so this is a win-win-win for my family. We just love it. Now we're making this creamy tomato zucchini chicken skillet. I have 2 large chicken breasts right here. You do want to cut them in half horizontally just like this. This will make the chicken super duper thin and it will make the chicken cook evenly and it'll make it cook quicker. So I definitely suggest you cutting your chicken like this. Now I'm going to cut 1 zucchini into half moons and I'll dice an onion into smaller pieces. Over to my pan on the stove, I'm going to add in a tablespoon of olive oil. Once my oil is good and hot, I'm going to add in my chicken. I did season my chicken on one side with salt and pepper. Now I'm going to season the other side of the chicken with salt and pepper as well. You're going to want to cook this chicken on each side for about 4 to 5 minutes or until your chicken's completely cooked through. Once your chicken's cooked through, you do want to remove it to a plate and set this plate to the side. In the same pan that we cooked our chicken in, add a tablespoon of olive oil. Once the oil is good and hot, add in the zucchini and the onion that we cut up earlier. Go ahead and cook the onion and zucchini for about 3 minutes to let those veggies start to soften. After that time, add in 1 14-ounce can of petite diced tomatoes. Next, add in about 3 ounces of cubed cream cheese, 1/3 cup of chicken broth, a dash of salt and pepper. Then for the rest of the seasonings, a half a teaspoon of onion powder and garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning, and the last seasoning is a teaspoon of dried basil. Give this a stir, put the lid on top, and let that cream cheese melt down. It should only take a few minutes, just stir it often. But now that it looks gorgeous, just like this, you're going to add the cooked chicken back in. Give this a stir, let the cooked chicken get coated in the sauce, then you could serve it. This has so many great fresh bold flavors. It really is scrumptious. You could serve this over mashed potatoes or rice, or if you want a lower carb option, you could serve it over cauliflower rice. But my favorite thing to do is serve it over these big egg noodles. It is 10 out of 10. Now we're going to make this beefy vegetable skillet. We're going to start out by cutting up our vegetables: a head of broccoli, 2 large carrots, a zucchini, and an onion. Set those veggies to the side. Into a large pot or Dutch oven, add a pound of ground beef. break that ground beef up and cook it until it's about 90% of the way cooked through, so not completely cooked through. We'll finish cooking it here in a moment, but just remove any excess grease from your pot. Then you're going to add in a tablespoon of minced garlic, followed by a dash of salt, pepper, and Italian seasoning. Give this a little stir. After that garlic is fragrant, just about 15 seconds later, add in those veggies that we cut up earlier and give this a stir. Add in about 2 tablespoons of tomato paste and about 1/3 cup of beef broth. I didn't film me adding that beef broth in, I'm sorry. But just stir this and let this simmer covered for about 5 to 10 minutes. You do want to stir it often while it's simmering, but now that our veggies are tender and our ground beef is cooked through, I added in 1/2 cup of shredded cheddar cheese. That's optional, you don't have to add the cheese in, but once the cheese melts down, you could serve this up. We served ours over cooked white rice, but serve this over anything that you could imagine. This is really super duper good, and I love how it's packed full of so many different vegetables. We love it, and if you didn't want to use ground beef, you could always use ground turkey or ground chicken as a substitute. I hope you found a dinner for yourself today, and I would really love to have you here, so make sure you're subscribed down below the video, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.